It's so good to see us gathered here to welcome a new year. One of the hardest years in our history just ended. Some of you haven't seen in a long time. Some of you I see every week. Some have prayed in this synagogue your whole lives, while others are here for the very first time, just beginning a new chapter in our community, and we welcome you. I also see our college students and young professionals who have come back home for the holidays. It fills our heart to see you. And yet, as I look around, I notice some seats filled regularly for many years empty. We feel the absence. We also feel their presence. You know, we live one block from Torah. And I was walking the park the other day when I saw a strange light glowing under a tree. I went closer, and to my amazement, I found an old lamp. Before I could even process what was happening, a genie burst out in a swirl of smoke. He looked at me and said, "You have one wish." I didn't hesitate. I said, "I want peace between Israelis and Palestinians, once and for all, signed, sealed, lasting." The genie's face grew serious. He shook his head slowly and said, "That's too hard, too complicated. Choose another wish." So I thought for a moment, and then I said, "Fine, then I want my Rosh Hashanah sermon this very first morning to be truly impactful. I wanted to stir people, to move them to reflections. I want the Republicans in the room not to feel I'm speaking as a Democrat, and I want the Democrats not to feel I'm speaking as a Republican. I want those who love Netanyahu to be happy, and those who cannot stand him to feel comfortable as well." Then the genie interrupted me and said, "So when exactly do you want that peace agreement with the Palestinians?" There are years when all you carry is a small backpack, and there are years impossibly heavy. And then there are years when every step grinds a weight into your shoulders, a weight no one else sees. There's a kind of tiredness you can't see on someone's face. It doesn't make you sweat, and no nap or coffee can fix it. It sits deep inside you, waiting in the morning when you open your eyes like the night has betrayed you again. It's being surrounded by the people you love the most and realizing you are only half present, never fully there. It's hearing yourself laugh but not feeling the joy behind the sound. Many of us, whether talking with the people closest to us, texting friends in the middle of the night, speaking with a therapist, or sharing over coffee with a rabbi, have felt the same thing. This year has been hard, very hard. The stress around us presses so hard that sometimes all we want is to shrink inside ourselves, pray that our family is safe, and focus only on protecting our own selves. It's like the story of the grandfather who goes shopping with his 3-year-old grandson. The child is having a full meltdown, screaming for candy, for cookies, grabbing at everything. The grandfather stays calm. In a sweet voice, he says, "Take it easy, William. We'll be done soon. Just hang in there." The boy crouches slider, and Grandpa continues, "It's all right, William. Just a few more minutes. You can do this." At the checkout, the child is now throwing things out of the cart, and again, Grandpa keeps his composure. Stay calm, William. Don't lose it now. There was a woman who had been watching come over astonished. I have to tell you, I've never seen such patience. William is lucky to have you as a grandfather like you. And the old man smiles and says, thank you, but you should know, I am William. The boy's name is Kevin. How many times were you William this year? Asking for calm? What situation pushed you to your limits? What way did you carry in silence? What conversations did you avoid from fear of things breaking? What situations made you feel on the edge? What relationship became your biggest source of stress? What expectation you placed on yourself became an unbearable burden? I did this exercise for myself and was inspired by a routine stress test I did a few weeks ago. This is what happened. I got on the treadmill, they put on the monitor, and at first, it's easy. I walk, I breathe well. They increase the incline, I feel in my legs, breathing gets harder, heart beats faster, a bit more, and now it's a mountain. Chest burns, lungs beg for air, hands search for support. My organs and I were ready for it to finish. When I ended, I asked the doctor, what were you checking? My heart rate, my lung capacity, my pulse? And the doctor replied, none of that. I was checking your resistance. At that moment, he provided me with today's topic, 5785, a year of resistance. 5785 demanded from us to show resistance as human and as Jews, living through one of the worst years in our history. The questions I asked before kept many of us awake at night, but for us committed Jews, the list only continues. It's long and heavy, testing our very ability to resist. I recently read about a curse. Some say it's Chinese, others say it's British. It says the following, may you live in interesting times. I wonder, have Jews ever lived in non-interesting times? It's difficult to tell where we stand in history because living inside it makes perspective almost impossible. The moment we are living in is frightening, uncertain, and yet full of promise. We just pray, Ayom Arat Olam. Today the world is pregnant. Pregnant with what? I will say, with endless possibilities. A moment of pregnancy is heavy with mystery. It means something is on its way, though we cannot yet name it. It might be the beginning of a life filled with new hopes and opportunities, or it might bring struggle, fear, and uncertainty. Most likely, it will be all of those. Joy and trembling, promise and risk, and the weight of the unknown pressing close. Resistance. October 7 showed us something we didn't know. Israel was living on a volcano. Iran had built what they call the octopus, a network of terrorist groups surrounding Israel, all ready to attack. There is no need to recall in detail the horrific tragedy of that day. But no less terrifying was realizing what could have happened had Hamas from the south, Hezbollah from the north, Iran, the Houthis, and Syria all acted at once. History would have looked very different. Israel dismantled a real existential threat, one we had not fully seen before. And from then on, the trap began. For 2 years, we have battled a real but unconventional army. Conventional armies are made to protect their civilians. This one hides behind its civilians. That combination of army and terrorism was designed to create a tragedy. So what is the tragedy? After October 7, Israel was left with only 2 terrible options. One, refrain from attacking Hamas. Allow them to carry out the perfect crime, to kill, to escape, and vanish among civilians. 2, pursue the destruction of Hamas, which unavoidably meant moving through civilian population. Morally, both choices are bad. Israel did not choose bad over good, but bad over worse. As Israeli philosopher Micah Goodman says, war is like a car. Victory is the destination, legitimacy is the fuel. When driving toward victory, the fuel drains. While trying to destroy Hamas, inevitably civilians are affected and legitimacy is eroded. It's a tragedy designed by Hamas. And so we face the great question, what comes first? Arriving at the destination or running out of fuel? Hamas bet everything on one thing, that Israel will lose its legitimacy before it could destroy them. Here we are, peace-loving people who offered a Palestinian state repeatedly and watched those offers turn to instruments of violence, forced with sorrow into a fight. It's obvious what we feel when we see hundreds of Israelis, orphans and widows, more than 900 soldiers dead, thousands disabled. It's a wound that will never stop bleeding. And watching terrible images of devastation in Gaza, we say, yes, innocents are dying and it hurts terribly. No need to say bad. Thousands are dying. According to the Talmud, tractate Rosh Hashanah, rabbis declare that the shofar, it sounded 100 times for the 100th cry of Sisera's mother. Sisera was the Canaanite army commander, an arch enemy of Israel. And the shofar is sounded to remember even the crying of the enemy's mother, because death is always tragic, even when it's your enemy's son. Hayom harat olam. Today the world is pregnant with opportunity. For the first time in history, 22 Arab countries proclaimed Hamas must disappear. Remember, none of them came to its aid, remaining as that from the tragedy of war, some kind of renewal can be born, and from destruction, possibility can emerge. To the question, what will be born on this moment? I don't know. What I do know is that they are being called to resist and to remind those who want to forget. They still hold 48 hostages. 2 years, 48 hostages. If for even a second you don't think the number one priority is to bring them back, imagine that one of the 48 is your son or your daughter, and the conversation is over. As the grandchild of one of the 6 million, I carry the weight of memory every day. To be called genocidal is not just painful. It feels like an eraser of my family's suffering, of the ashes they left behind. It feels like the world has turned its face away from our history, twisting the word that defines our deepest wound into a weapon against us. What pierces even more is knowing that many of the loudest voices shouting this accusation were silent or even rejoicing on October 8th. To the millions on TikTok who often know nothing of the history of the complexity of this conflict, repeating slogans like "Stop the genocide in Gaza" or "Free Palestine," I answer, if this was a genocide, it'd be the first time in the history of genocides where the genocided hold 48 of the genociders hostages and don't return them. If this were a genocide, it's the first time in the history of the genocides that the genocided still have weapons and can kill the genocidal soldiers like yesterday and civilians. If this were a genocide, it would be the first time in the history of genocides where the genocided can decide if he accepts conditions for a ceasefire. In this climate, countries like England, France, Spain, Canada, Australia, under pressure from their militant Muslim population, declaring we must recognize a Palestinian state. Capitulating to these pressures, they invoke the word genocide and issue demands. While Hamas sits in defiance, the world hands it a diplomatic prize. Is Palestine ready for statehood? Really? Ready? With which government? Under which leadership? One sworn to annihilation, one incapable of the most basic responsibility of renouncing terror, one that shows disregard for Israeli lives while inflicting unimaginable pain on Gazans themselves. I would say to countries like England, France, and Spain, we deserve criticisms. We are imperfect. But give a close look at what is happening in your own streets. God forbid the day comes when your friends turn the Eiffel Tower, the Big Ben, and Plaza Mayor into a mosque. By the way, some already suggest making October 7 the Palestinian State Independence Day. Not so fast. Not so fast. Resist. 3 months ago, a colleague called to vent. He had just met with a newly engaged Jewish couple to discuss the structure and meaning of the traditional Jewish wedding ceremony, a text shaped nearly 2,000 years ago. The well-educated couple asked about the Hebrew wording, particularly how certain passages would be translated into English. Rabbi, they said, we understand that when the ceremony refers to the people of Israel, it means the Jewish people. But our friends might think it refers to today's state. So we prefer that you don't use the word Israel in the ceremony. That confirmed for me a painful truth. Thousands of members of this new generation do not have the same commitment to Israel that we do. What would you have answered, he asked me. That's what I said. They came to you, to the rabbi, because of their love for each other. So I will start with love. Love is hard. That's a fact. Love is hard with a spouse, with a partner, with children, with parents, especially at the age, and become less like those who raise us. It's even hard with close friends. Loving a country is no different. Americans who love America today, Democrat, Republican, Independent, or anywhere in between, love a country with many challenges. We just experienced one of the greatest tragedies in our nation's history, the assassination of a person simply for his belief. It's not just a political event. It's an assault on everything we hold sacred about freedom, democracy. No society that values life, liberty, and the right to speak without fear can accept this. It's a wound that should touch every American heart, because when one of us is targeted for who they are and what they stand for, we are all shaken. But I don't hear Americans' friends say they are abandoning the US or giving up because the country is hopelessly divided. They stay in the relationship. That's love. That's loyalty. I remember Daniel Gordy speaking about perfection. Perfection is something to aspire to, not something we ever fully attain. The fact that something or someone isn't perfect is no reason to abandon it. It's not easy to embrace imperfection, and yet When someone truly loves us, they also love us with our flaws. That's what makes love the great gift it is. Which brings us to Israel, an imperfect country. But we must not forget why it exists. Why did the Jewish people undertake the monumental project of founding a state? They embraced Zionism so they will never again have to live at the mercy of a passing tyrant or exist as pariahs among the nation. As Zionism succeeded, it succeeded so fully that it's hard to remember how different things were just 80 years ago. By 2048, Israel's centennial, 2/3 of the world's Jews will live in Jewish state. Most Jewish babies will be born there. You may know the story of the chicken and the pig who are walking down the street when they see a sign in a restaurant window, ham and eggs for breakfast. The chicken is calm, but the pig panics. So the chicken asks the pig, why is he so upset? And the pig explains, from you, they want a donation. From me, they want a commitment. Yes, American Jews make the donation. But it's the Jews of Israel who have made the commitment to put their lives on the line by decision by which they and their children will live or, God forbid, will die. That's what I will say to the newly-wed couple. This is what you want to abandon? Criticizing Jews is fine. We ourselves are the most critical people. Have you ever met a Jew who doesn't criticize? Opposing Israel policies is fine. Most of us have, at some point, opposed Israel governments. And this one as a disgraceful coalition hiding racism, corruption, and hatred under the kippot. How can a minister wearing a kippah and a talis dare to say that great real estate boom is coming in Gaza? This is Hilul Hashem, the desecration of God's name. Advocating for Palestinians is fine. Protesting to alleviate war is fine. Even not liking Jews is fine. Everybody has prejudice. What matters is how we act on them. Let me be clear. I've been to many debates this year on TV and in person. But I no longer debate with anyone about whether the Jewish state among all the countries in the world has the right to exist. This is what I say. I don't care if you are woke or unwoke, liberal or conservative, Republican or Democrat, straight, gay. I don't care if you are white or black, evangelical or Buddhist. I don't care if you are indigenous or immigrant, if you favor one state or two states. But what do I care is, which side are you on? There are people out there who want to harm my family, the Jewish family. These people have raped, slaughtered, beheaded, taken hostages, Jews and non-Jews. And they say they will do it again if they can. They have forced Israelis to hide in shelters, leave their wives and children for extended periods of time to defend their country. So I ask you just one question. While all this has been happening to members of my family, did you stand by us or against us? Amitai Tzvi Granot, 24, was killed by Hezbollah on October 15, 2023. Days before, over the phone, he had proposed to Ronnie, the love of his life. She said yes. The weeks after the engagement were the happiest of his life, says his father, Rabbi Granot. At Amitai Tzvi's funeral, Rabbi Granot stood with his wife and 6 children, shattered by grief, but he also thought of Ronnie, his son's would-be bride. To her he said, Ronnie, choose life. Choose life. 22 months later, last month, Ronnie became engaged again. She asked Rabbi Granot to officiate because for her, he still carried a piece of Amitai. And so he stood beneath the chuppah, marrying the women who should have been his son's wife. Imagine that man's soul at that moment. Tears for the life that will never be. Tears for the love that may yet grow. Tears for a father who lost a son and who even so blesses. If in that instant Rabbi Granot had been hooked up to a treadmill, the monitor would not only have shown his pounding heart, pain, anxiety, but the deepest rhythm of Jewish life itself. Stress, resistance, and again, the choosing of life. Suddenly, at the ceremony, someone began to sing Dodi Li. Dodi Li, I'm my beloved, and my beloved is mine. This verse from the Song of Songs is a poem of love. Yet in our tradition, it's more than a human romance. It's the eternal song between God and Israel. To sing it under the chuppah was an act of faith and defiance. A reminder that even in laws, our story does not end in tragedy. What's the greatest contribution of the Jewish people to humanity? Asked Thomas Cahill, a practicing Catholic writer, in his book, The Gift of the Jews. And this is his answer. Jews gave the world the gift of hope. The bold belief that tomorrow can be better than today, that humans can shape their destiny, and that God cares about what we do. This is the message of this Rosh Hashanah. With wounded hearts, we still choose tomorrow. With scars on our souls, we still choose the future. With all our fragility, we still choose love. Because to keep loving, to keep dreaming, to keep living as Jews is our greatest act of resistance. No matter how crushing the challenges, we rise, we grow, we blossom, we create, we dance, we sing, we teach, we learn, we live with awe. For we stand on three pillars. We stand on Torah, we stand on God, and we carry Israel in our hearts. Resist, resist, resist. May each of you be inscribed in the book of life, and may God bless you with many, many good tomorrows. Shana Tova.